Our guest speaker today is a living Mr. Joel Smith has been about 42 years. He teaches 2 classes at the Center for Lifelong Learning at UWF in Fort Walton. Both are comparative religion courses. The very first class is a survey class where speakers from various religious groups present different topics. His second class is titled The Messianic Prophecies of the World's Great Religions. In this one he covers Hindu, Buddhist, Jewish, Christian, and Islamic prophecies, plus Mayan and Native American prophecies. He also explains the number of prophecies from the Bible's books of Daniel and Revelation. The world religions, in his terms, are all essentially saying the same thing in almost the same language. And Baha'i teaches that one God has revealed one religion to humanity all over the world in progressive stages throughout history. He has a website, and I'll get that information for you afterwards if you'd like. He also has videos out there on YouTube and quite a few other places, and podcasts on the Emerald Coast Baha'is website. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Joel Smith.
Good morning. Well, you just stole my introduction, so I guess I should turn this on. As she said, I've been a Baha'i for about 42 years. I took one of those internet tests where you try to decide what religion you should belong to, and it said that I should be Unitarian. So Baha'is and Unitarians are so similar in their values and the way they treat people. I don't have any problems with that. I mentioned that to Rod Debs, who is the minister of the Valparaiso Unitarian Church, and he commented that when he lived in Iowa, they used to disdainfully refer to him there as a Baha'i. So we're pretty much all the same. Well, as Maggie said, I guess when I first heard about Baha'i, the thing that impressed me the most is the idea that, as she said, one God has sent one religion to humanity in progressive stages, and that they all essentially say the same things. Baha'i also has very strong emphasis on the elimination of racism and the equality of men and women. And I remember seeing that when I was 21 years old, thinking, these are just remarkable teachings for a religion. The thing that really grabbed me, though, is the idea that another prophet of God has appeared. In the progression from Moses, Jesus, Muhammad, another one has appeared, and his name is Baha'u'llah. That's a little bit what I'm going to talk about. Has anybody ever seen this building before? This is a Baha'i house of worship near New Delhi, India. It's called the Lotus Temple. It now actually is the #1 tourist destination in India. It actually outdraws the Taj Mahal. A lot of people may be more familiar with this one. This one's just north of Chicago. And when I became a Baha'i, I lived on the north side of Chicago, so this is where I actually went to the pretty building, and that's where I first heard about it. So I teach a class on Messianic prophecies. And I actually teach a class, one of the modules is on the Mayan Indian religion. A number of years back, I guess about 12 years back, I went to Belize, Central America, for about 5 weeks, just traveled around and visited people. And the Baha'is there set it up so I got to actually live in the homes with Mayan Indians and other ethnic minorities. But as one of my Facebook friends said about the Mayan apocalypse, it's just about the worst apocalypse ever. So one of the module that I do on the Mayans is drawn largely from the book on the lower right, the Codex Perez and the book of Chilam Balam by Reindorp. I don't know if you can see that. Most of the Mayan books were burned by the Spanish. So actually relatively few books survive. And one of them is known today as the Codex Perez. And in this book, the Mayans do not foretell the end of the world. What it talks about is the coming of the hero twins, the return of the hero twins, and who renew religion and to, again, raise up the standards of humanity. Does anybody know what the word apocalypse means? It's from the Greek, apo and kalyps. Apo means to go out. So an apostle is one who goes out. An apostate is one who goes out from something that is stable. Apocalypse means one who goes out, something that goes out from that which was hidden. The word actually means revelation. So the book of Revelation is not about the end of the world. It's about the renewal of the world. So this is the statement here from the book of Revelation. This is the essence of the book of Revelation. And I, John, saw a new heaven and a new earth, and I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven. And then he says, I will make all things new. That's what the book of Revelation is about. It's not about destroying. There's nothing in the New Testament or even in the Bible about the end of the world. From age to age, humanity and religion is renewed. He continues, John continues. And the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon to shine in it, for the glory of God did lighten it. And the Lamb is the light thereof. And the nations of them which are saved shall walk in the light of it. As a Baha'i, I find this interesting because the prophet founder, Baha'u'llah, his name in English means the glory of God. And much of the book of Revelation is about his coming, and I can show you that in detail. He had a forerunner who was killed. In the Bible, those who are killed are often referred to as lambs. But I'll develop that a little bit more later on. So just a brief statement about the Baha'i attitude towards religions, about people, and really the purpose of our existence. It says, the creator of all is one God. From the same God, all creation sprang into existence, and he is the one goal towards which everything in nature yearns. There can be no doubt whatever that the peoples of the world of whatever race or religion derive their inspiration from one heavenly source and are subjects of one God. Another passage says, the diversity in the human family, diversity should be the cause of love and harmony. As it is in music, where many different notes blend together in the making of a perfect chord. If you meet those of a different race and color from yourself, do not mistrust them and withdraw yourself from your shell of conventionality, but rather be glad and show them kindness. Think of them as different colored roses growing in the beautiful garden of humanity, and rejoice to be among them. It says, likewise, when you meet those whose opinions differ from your own, do not turn away your face from them. All are seeking truth, and there are many roads leading thereto. Truth has many aspects, but it remains always and forever one. Do not allow difference of opinion or diversity of thought to separate you from your fellow men, or to be the cause of dispute, hatred, and strife in your hearts. Rather, search diligently for the truth, and make all men your friends. There is one God, mankind is one, the foundations of religion are one. Let us worship him and give praise for all his great prophets and messengers who have manifested his brightness and glory. So as you can see, Unitarians and Baha'is are very much kindred spirits. I'm sure that variations of the same thing can be found anywhere in Unitarian writings. I do teach a class at UWF titled Messianic Prophecies of the World's Great Religions. And It's an 8-week class, and each class is an hour and a half long, so I literally have about 12 hours worth of material right here on the iPad. So what I've done is I've tried to take snippets from each one of them and to just give you a brief glimpse of a kind of an overview of the class. So Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, probably one of the oldest texts in history. Krishna said that whenever there is decay of righteousness and there is exaltation of unrighteousness, that I myself come forth for the destruction of evildoers, for the sake of firmly establishing righteousness. I am born from age to age. So Krishna said that he returns. Krishna said that he would return. Each one of the prophets, by the way, either promised to personally return himself or to send one like him. And from the Baha'i viewpoint, they're not in competition. It's all part of the same process, and we're all heading towards something. And as it says in the book of Revelation, this is a time when all things will be made new and things will be renewed. Now, the Apostle Paul, in the beginning of the letter to the Hebrews, kind of states the obvious. He said, in the past, God spoke to our forefathers through the prophets at many times and in various ways. But in these last days, He, God, has spoken to us by His Son. So he identifies Jesus as part of the process. I did an internet search one time and I typed in, how many prophets have appeared in the Bible? And the answer came back, about 50. So, viewed from this perspective, we can see it as a process. And actually, Paul here does not says God has sent many prophets at many times in various ways. He doesn't say only to the Hebrew people. Many of the prophets appeared in other countries, like Iraq and Iran and Syria. And of course, the Apostle Paul is from Turkey, and much of the New Testament is from Turkey and Greece and Rome. So it doesn't take much to expand that viewpoint to include people like Krishna and Buddha and Zoroaster, and the Native Americans have prophets. So Gautama Buddha also said, I'm not the first one, I'm not the first Buddha who came upon this earth, nor shall I be the last. In due time, another Buddha will arise in the world. A holy one, a supremely enlightened one, endowed with wisdom and conduct auspicious, knowing the universe, an incomparable leader of men, a master of angels and mortals. He will reveal to you the same eternal truths which I have taught you. He will preach to you his religion, glorious in its origin, glorious at the climax, and glorious at the goal, and in spirit and letter. There is a tradition within Buddhism about a fifth Buddha. Some Buddhists acknowledge Krishna as the fourth Buddha. Other Buddhist groups refer to this Messianic Buddha as the Amitabha. The word Amitabha is a variation of the name Baha, which is Baha'u'llah. About 1000 BC, another prophet appeared in Persia. His name was Zoroaster. I remember asking a Persian friend of mine one time that, tell me about Zoroaster, and he had no idea what I was talking about. And I said, Persian prophet, 1000 BC, gave a religion, the Persian kings were Zoroastrians. And he says, oh, Zardosht. If you remember the movie 2001 Space Odyssey, the theme song of that movie was also spoke Zoroaster, also spoke Zarathustra. So he lived about 1000 BC, and Zoroaster foretold 3 saviors who would come at about 1,000-year intervals. The first of these saviors was, you can't really say it specifically, but it was probably Jesus. And there is speculation that the wise men who traveled to visit the infant Jesus were Persian Zoroastrians. And as you know, they brought 3 gifts. It doesn't say that there were 3 wise men, but they brought 3 gifts: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So myrrh is a priestly Gold is supposedly he was being tested to see whether he was going to be a healer, a king, or a priest. So that's what the three gifts symbolized. Interestingly enough, supposedly shortly after Jesus was born, he was threatened by the king, and somehow this poor Jewish family could suddenly afford a trip into Egypt, which saved Jesus' life. So, viewed from that perspective, the gift of gold from the Magi was actually a rescue mission, and they came to save him. If the Magi were Zoroastrians, then they would have known of his coming. He would have been the first in the series of three. The second was probably Muhammad. I don't know what I can say about Muhammad. There's not much of Muhammad's religion still exists. Even Muhammad himself said that the time will come when his religion will be like a collapsed pot, is what he describes it as, a broken pot that no longer holds water. That doesn't mean that he wasn't a true prophet, and he could have been the second in the series of Zoroaster. Zoroaster also foretold the appearance of a third savior, and one of the names of this Messiah was Shabaram, the King, Glory of God, which just happens to be Baha'u'llah's name. Zoroaster also said that the Shabaram would be descended from Zoroaster, that he would be part of the family line. And Baha'u'llah's family line, he was royalty. He was descended from the Persian kings. He's also descended from Zoroaster. So most of the Zoroastrians, or let's say many of the Zoroastrians of Iran, of Persia, since the appearance of Baha'u'llah, have become Baha'is, partially because of this. This is a statement of Zoroaster's about the coming of the Zoroastrian Messiah. So one question is, how have the prophets of God all appeared in the past? They were all born as children. There are statements that, for example, that Jesus will come down out of the sky. What Christians don't take into account is that in the 6th chapter of John, 2,000 years ago, Jesus said, I came down from heaven. And when he said this, the rabbis who were standing there and the disciples said, wait a second, we knew your mother, we knew your father, where do you say I came down from heaven? And it says that when Jesus said this, his disciples, having heard him say this, said, this is more than we can tolerate. And it says Jesus' disciples abandoned him and walked no more with him when he said, I came down from heaven. So all the prophets of God have always been born as children. Part of what I talk about in the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation in the series is the numbers. And these are the numbers of Daniel and Revelation. If you notice, there's actually in the book of Daniel, it refers to the coming of the two. They're referred to as Gabriel and Michael. And at the last chapter of the book of Daniel, it talks about the coming of the two. And the time frame associated with them is time times and a half. This is stated 2 different times in the book of Daniel in 2 different places. In the book of Revelation, it also talks about the time times and a half. It also speaks, so that's 3.5 times. It also speaks of the 3.5 years. A circle or a cycle is 360 degrees. So 3.5 cycles of 360 is 1260. Book of Revelation, this is in the 11th, 12th, and 13th chapter, gives us the same number 7 different times in different forms. It talks about the 3.5 years, the 42 months, and the 1260 days. There are 1260 days in 42 months, and there are 1260 days in 3.5 years. In the Islamic prophecies, they say that the Islamic Messiah will appear in the year 1260 of their calendar. So if the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation are actually speaking about certain events that happened within Islam, it's a complete agreement. So you have 3 religions spanning centuries, different countries, and they're saying the exact same thing with the exact same numbers. This is an interesting prophecy from Islam. It's from the Dalail-ul-Irfan. It says that ere long God will shine from the face of the glory of the most glorious with the name of Baha on the day of absolute in the plain of Akka. This prophecy is 1,300 years old. As a Baha'i, I find that very interesting. Baha'u'llah, when he appeared, was opposed. And he was exiled by the religious leaders and by the kings of his country. He was born in Persia or Iran. He was exiled to Baghdad in Iraq. From there, he was exiled to Constantinople in Turkey. And from there, he was exiled to Akka in Israel. I do an entire module on the book of Isaiah, and what the book of Isaiah talks about is the coming of a Redeemer from the east to Israel at a time when the Jews, he actually says that he will draw the Jews back to him. So when the Jews return, he will renew religion, and he will be sent to Mount Carmel and Akka. So this is what Isaiah says about Sharon, Akka, and Mount Carmel. Baha'u'llah, in his writings, said that he was the one that was foretold by Isaiah. He says, I am the one whom the tongue of Isaiah hath extolled, the one with whose name both the Torah and the Evangel were adorned. So he claims to be the fulfillment of Isaiah and the fulfillment of the Old Testament and the New Testament. So in the book of Revelation, Jesus talks about Armageddon, the apocalypse, the Armageddon. If you watch the History Channel, it's usually depicted as an atomic mushroom cloud. Mount Carmel is the Armageddon. So right here, this is Haifa, Akka. Haifa and Akka are right here. And this is Megiddo is right here. And the mountain of Megiddo, the Har Megiddon, is Mount Carmel. So in the 17th chapter of the book of Revelation, it talks about the coming of the kings from the east. And it says they will come to the Tigris and Euphrates, which is where Baha'u'llah was exiled. It says he will come to the seat of the beast, which was the capital of the Islamic Empire at that time, which was Constantinople. And then it says he will come to the mountain of Megiddo, the Har Megiddon. How are we doing on time? Good. Okay. So today, this is what Mount Carmel looks like. And Isaiah, this is a passage from Isaiah. It says, the wilderness and solitary place shall be glad for them. The desert shall rejoice and blossom as the rose. And it says, Carmel and Sharon, they shall see the glory of the Lord. Again, the name Baha'u'llah means the glory of the Lord. And he was exiled involuntarily as a prisoner to Mount Carmel. And that photograph right there, by the way, that's the Baha'i World Center, which is located on the site of Mount Carmel. So I guess in closing, Baha'u'llah said, verily I say, this is the day in which mankind can behold the face and hear the voice of the promised one. The call of God hath been raised, and the light of his countenance hath been lifted up upon men. It behoveth every man to blot out the trace of every idle word from the tablet of his heart, and to gaze with an open and unbiased mind on the signs of his revelation, the proofs of his mission, and the tokens of his glory. So he's not demanding obedience. He's not demanding people to believe. He just says, take a look. And that's all Baha'is really ask people to do. This is Mount Carmel in 1900. And today, as Isaiah said, the desert has blossomed as the rose. One of the Baha'is in Fort Walton Beach was the gardener, the caretaker of the Mount Carmel properties. He's retired now. And he would be a wonderful speaker here, by the way. So he's the one that built the gardens. So he's the one that transformed Mount Carmel from a barren rock to what the Chamber of Commerce of Haifa refers to today as the eighth wonder of the world. And these are some of the Baha'i properties on Mount Carmel. So I wrote a web page. This is the location. It's had a couple million hits. I don't know how many, but oh, there's also some pamphlets up here on the table that if you want any literature. So I guess in closing, I'd like to just say thank you for listening. I think Unitarian Baha'i values are just about identical. But Baha'i offers insights into the scriptures of the religions that I have never seen anyplace else. And part of that, it says in the Bible that when the promised one comes, he will unseal the books. And this is actually what Baha'u'llah has done. He's explained the book of Daniel. He's explained the book of Revelation. He's explained the Islamic prophecies and on the prophecies of all the religions. So we are living in an age of transition. On one hand, there's a breakdown of the old. On the other hand, there's a growth of the new. So depending on where you're looking and what you're focusing your energies on, you can either see that the world is grinding to a halt, or you can see that it's being reborn into something that is infinitely better than existed before. I think to a great extent we're being dragged kicking and screaming into a new way of seeing things. One thing that I appreciate about Unitarians is you're already there. You already see it. You already see your horizons are already expanded, and you can see the value in all the religions. So for that, I applaud you. So I guess we're going to have questions afterwards in the back room. There are Baha'is in Pensacola. I actually live over by Navarre, but I think I actually saw some walk in. So if you want to talk further with Baha'is, they're available. So I think thank you.